Dear America, I love you, but we've got to talk about death cults. No, that can't be right. Death cults? Oh, I mean Republicans. Oh, wait, no. That's a D. Okay. Dear America, I love you, but we've got to talk about Democrats. Wait, hold on a second. No, that's employers. Or corporations? Or is that capitalism? I'm sorry, this is my first day, and I can't seem to read my notes here, so let's just talk about coronavirus. Before I go any further, let me just say, this is an opinion piece. This is what I think, and while I believe it's supported by facts, I'm not a journalist or an expert. This is just a weird little internet video with some of my thoughts on this issue and nothing more. Take it with a grain of salt. So this is the part of the video essay where I suppose I should maybe lay out a thesis statement of some kind. One that seems a bit out there at first, maybe a little controversial, but attention-getting. I think that's the key. Some kind of attention-seeking behavior. Something like, COVID-19 has seized the gears of the production machine, and capitalists are trying to bleed all of us directly into the gearbox in a desperate hope that enough of our blood will lubricate the money printer. Yeah, something like that. Then I guess it would be a good practice to, I don't know, maybe lay out a bit of historical background. Only just enough that the average viewer would be able to understand what I'm talking about, so that it should all seem like foreshadowing, maybe. Since every little bit of world history that I pull from should somehow speak to whatever the thesis statement is. So the whole spiel should seem a bit like a bad mystery movie. You know the type, the made-for-TV popcorn shows that you put on while you're in the kitchen and you only half pay attention to anyway. The type you can guess the whole plot as soon as the first character is introduced. All while you're pretending that you enjoy cooking elaborate meals to cover the fact that the emptiness of modern life has hollowed you out so completely that the simple, tactile process of baking a loaf of bread, with all the deeply sensual stimuli inherent in the process, those smells and the feelings and the sounds and the textures, is just so much bother that you've already automated the process with a fucking machine. Which is 1,000% less efficient than the industrial bread makers at the bakery, where you could go to get fresh bread any given day of the week, but you thought the bread machine was just so neat, like your smartphone. Which was almost as neat as your grandparents thought their digital watches were. And figured, what the hell, I like bread, and I like not doing anything that requires effort, so you replace the good qualia of bread making with the dull whir of a fucking bread machine, thereby destroying about 50% of the value of homemade bread, with the added benefit of freeing up more of your time to day drink, to crossfade with your antidepressants after spending too much time thinking about your lost youth and potential freed up because of labor-saving devices that you only use to fill the emptiness you deeply feel inside. Of course you can bake bread. You don't have to know anything about the process. There's an app for that. I'll just assume that the existential dread of the 21st century, and specifically 2020, is already well known to you. We've all been stuck inside long enough that we're just stood in our kitchens imagining what we could make if we could fucking have guests come over for a dinner party. But you never did invite people over to your house, did you? No, there was always a grind to keep you busy. So busy your entire social calendar included intentionally not talking with people about any real subjects. Hell, you only bread tube to learn how to make bread. Wait, that's not right. Anyways, death cults. So this might all seem like old news at this point. There are just so many things that have happened in the last few months. Stuff we'll be collectively processing for the next few generations. But the speed of everything around us has only given us enough time to really consider an issue for like a few moments before throwing some other horrible calamity in our face. It's like we're all collectively playing RimWorld right now on merciless difficulty with a coked up Randy Random. We don't even have time to catch our breaths before an alarm is going off and we're forced to ask, what new hell is this? I mean, we haven't even been able to deal with the poison ship that just crashed in our fucking base right in the middle of our blighted rice farm. The bodies from the last raid have gone all mushy because the psychic drone caused our main laborer to go on a murderous rampage before he was able to bury them, so like half the graves are dug, but empty? And the Muffalo is still on fire. Dude, fucking chill for a moment. I don't care if a new infestation is starting. Not until Builder stops his insulting spree. One earth-shattering crisis at a time. We're all gonna die. I just didn't think it was gonna be today. I'm just gonna wall that off and let them bugs keep digging. This is fine. We have to talk about COVID-19. I don't mean to be taking away attention from other really important issues that are still going on right now. There is important work that is still being done in the streets in every city in the country. Right now, though, we need to take a step back and look at the context those streets are in. I don't mean the hundreds of years of systemic racism, but this moment in time, right now, this historic horror. And it is absolutely just as horrifying as the Black Death and every other global pandemic that has ever happened before. It is fundamentally changing us as a society in ways that hundreds of years from now, future historians will be studying and trying to really figure out. Honestly, right now, in this moment, we have no chance of making COVID-19 make any meaning to us at all. Meaning happens after the emotion. It's what comes next as we all start to normalize our collective stories of what just happened. We're not done doing that with 9/11. We're not even close yet. Hell, the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, they all just got recontextualized. Rodney King, 90s sitcom, Rage Against the Machine. Here we are again, 29 years later, same fucking shit. Same racist cops. These aren't ancient history. They're active forces in our culture right now. The so-called Spanish flu, better known as the 1918 flu pandemic. It all has new meaning to us now. We're looking at it as a guide to what might work and what might make things worse. Medical experts have spent over 100 years picking it apart and creating comprehensive responses to pandemics. So why the fuck are we dying? This might be my first video on this channel, but I have a rational fear that this might be the last words I ever say. When writing this script, it took me literal hours to recover from saying that. You never really know what's going to fall out when you start writing things down. The rational fear is the exact reason I can't stay silent. If I do, then it will be the first thing that I'll never be able to say. Now, there are people that will take issue with me calling this fear rational. They'll fall into two broad categories: philosophers and death cultists. Now, philosophers might have a legitimate claim that because I'm talking about emotional states, it can't be subject to rationality. Emotions are often viewed as antithetical to rationality. Reason is meant to separate us from other animals, to elevate us to some higher state of existence that isn't dominated purely by reactions. And being afraid is a reaction, a neurobiological response to stimuli, and nothing more. Sure, okay. But the fact that my life is in very real danger, and the danger is measurably increasing every single day, the reaction seems to match the facts of the matter. Even if the emotions can't be rational, it is rational that I'm experiencing this fear because the threat is very real. It aligns with the state of affairs as they actually are. At the time of this recording, COVID has infected 10 million people. Well, I should say that 10 million cases have been reported. It's very likely that it's 10 times that number. Almost 500,000 people have died from COVID. The entire 1918 flu pandemic only caused 675,000 deaths in the US, and that was over the course of about 2 years. Worldwide, there was an estimated 50 million deaths. COVID-19 is more infectious, doesn't produce antibodies that last long enough in your system for the virus to burn through a single city, much less the rest of the world, and the World Health Organization states that those antibodies don't stop reinfection anyway. There is no immunity to this disease. We're not talking about a forest fire that can be backburned so that it'll stop. This very well could be the Reaper's scythe cutting through the population again and again and again without any reason to believe that it'll stop. It is possible there won't ever be a cure. It may be impossible to even create a vaccine. It is possible that this is our new flu. A flu that causes young and old to drop dead from strokes, seemingly randomly, without warning or symptoms. This is a flu that causes you to drown in your own bodily fluids. This is a flu that can easily overwhelm all of our hospitals and our entire medical supply chain. This is a flu that can have nearly exponential growth in the number of infected individuals. This is a flu that can hide in otherwise healthy people showing no symptoms whatsoever, so that they spread it for weeks without the slightest hint that they're sick. This is a flu that is guaranteed to sweep through primary and secondary educational facilities, infecting an entire generation of kids. Kids that may live, but who will infect their parents. This is a flu that will turn every prison into a death camp. This isn't 1918. This is our Black Death. And I'm not overstating that. If anything, I'm understating it. The Grim Reaper is at your door, tapping on your window with his scythe. It would be irrational to not be afraid right now. We've been digging mass graves for a couple months. We may never be able to stop. That's how serious it is. It is rational to be afraid. It is irrational to think that everybody is going to be alright. Nothing is alright. The death cultist disagrees that there's a problem at all. Or, if it exists, it's as bad as they say it is. Or, if it is as bad, then the consequences of the fear are worse than the thing causing the fear. Or, whatever they have to fucking lie to themselves and others to keep them feeling safe and in control. Sometimes the clouds on the horizon aren't just a light summer rain. Sometimes it's a fucking hurricane. And if you don't heed the fear of the very real threat that is headed directly at you, you're going to fucking die. Worse than that, if you don't take the basic precautions to save your own fucking life, someone else is going to have to risk their life to save your dumbass. Sometimes a new disease isn't just a minor cold. Sometimes it's a civilization killer. COVID-19 could be. We just don't know yet. We won't know until we have a vaccine or an effective treatment. That vaccine have to be affordable enough for everyone in the world to be able to get it without costing them everything. And it has to be made available to everyone in the world. If the poor aren't treated, the disease keeps spreading. Until we stop this, we have to treat it as if it's a civilization killer, because it could be. The death cultist is not only okay with that being a possibility, but they're the biggest supporter of the virus becoming a civilization killer. The irresponsible efforts to force the government to force poor people back to work has killed several thousand people already. Given the highly predictable outbreaks these cultists have caused, the fact that many states have had to put brakes on their reopening plans does only one thing. It highlights that the medical experts actually know what the fuck they're talking about. The cultist still doesn't care, because most of them don't live in the big cities that were already hit hard. The thing about pandemics is that they spread to wherever humans are. It doesn't matter if it's a small town. It doesn't matter if small towns have been somewhat okay so far. It's already there, and the threat is growing. It's easy for people to become fatigued by all the precautions and restrictions. It's easy to lose sight of what's really going on, and desire to restore the previous status quo. In mid-May, Indiana and Wisconsin opened a large portion of their businesses against the urging of medical experts. People from neighboring states crossed the state lines just to be able to get a taste of normality. It's understandable that people would want to have something that makes them feel like things are getting better. But things weren't getting better. They were just starting to level off. Things hadn't started to turn around. The irresponsible behavior of everyone involved caused an outbreak that claimed thousands of lives. Death cultists want to claim that wasn't because of the states opening too soon, but that's not hard to see, that's a lie. This isn't a situation where there is some kind of coincidental correlation. Having contact with an infected person puts you at risk of becoming infected. If you are infected, whether you have symptoms or not, having contact with other people puts them at risk of being infected. If you know it or not, contact with others makes you responsible for spreading the disease. Now that's both if you are healthy and have contact with an infected person, even if they show no symptoms and have no way of knowing, and if you are infected and have contact with healthy people, even if you show no symptoms. The only responsible thing you can do with a disease that you can get and not even know it is to assume you already have it, and isolate yourself as best as you're able. Typhoid Mary knew she was infected and went to work anyway. How many workers in Indiana and Wisconsin knew they were about to be evicted? At that point, millions of workers in those two states hadn't seen a paycheck in 2 months. Sure, there was the unexpected government check that might have helped a little bit, but it wasn't even enough to cover 2 weeks' expenses for an average American. Record number of people were filing for unemployment, and if they were lucky, it showed up when they needed it. With the two states opening, however, everyone on unemployment was about to lose their benefits if they didn't go back to work. Known sick, known healthy, unknown sick, all back to the daily grind. Gotta get that cash. Gotta get that monies. Gotta figure out how to not end up homeless in the middle of a pandemic. Literally have to risk my life and my family's health to avoid dying on the street. In the current circumstances, all the usual capitalist talking points about bootstraps and education kind of feel hollow at best. Tens of millions of Americans are suddenly unemployed. At the time of recording, 50% of all workers are unemployed. For the workers of these states, clearly sick or not, they had no choice. Capitalism is mandatory. The problem is that during an event like a global pandemic, participating means that you stand a good chance of dying anyway. So the options left to the workers are participate, get COVID-19, and die, or don't, get evicted, get COVID-19, and die. That's not a choice. Being as generous as I possibly can be, the best counterargument I can think of to all of this is that not everyone is going to die because of COVID. The problem is, enough will. Enough already have. Nearly 130,000 people have already died in the US alone. 500,000 people in the world. But the US is only 4% of the global population, so how the hell do we have 25% of the deaths? I thought we were exceptional. I thought we had the best medical system in the world, the best healthcare in the world. All of that was a fucking lie. If we'd even had adequate healthcare and a reasonable government that was able to respond to a crisis at the minimum level, then at most we should have only seen about 20,000 deaths, maybe about 400,000 cases. No, we're sitting with 2.5 million cases and over 100,000 deaths. We should all be fucking livid right now. This is goddamn ridiculous. The European Union is opening right now, having successfully controlled their outbreaks. And they've got to put a travel ban to stop Americans from reinfecting them. It's even more insane that there are groups of people dedicated to trying to downplay this whole situation. What the hell am I supposed to make of that? What the hell kind of message are you trying to send? My life is less important than your profits? My health doesn't matter as much as my labor? How the fuck? What the fuck happens when I get sick? What happens when my lungs fill with fluid? What happens to my labor when I can't breathe? What happens when a blood vessel in my brain explodes without warning and I fucking drop dead of a fucking stroke? What happens to your profitability then when I can't work? What happens to your economy when we all fucking die? Because we're all fucking dying here. What happens when your kid drops dead without showing a single fucking symptom? I'm sitting here having completely rational panic attacks every single fucking day because I'm paying attention to the world, seeking out experts, and trying to take in a broad media diet so that I can try to get a better picture of what's actually going on. You're going to country clubs and sit-down restaurants because the death cult told you that I'm the crazy one, that your freedom to get infected and spread this disease as fast as you can is more important than the lives of people in nursing homes and hospitals. You're going to come at me with bullshit about the cure being worse than the disease? The cure is just making sure that people have enough resources to self-isolate. We're not talking about a huge amount of money here. We're talking a basic income so they can eat and not get evicted. You're trying to tell me our lives aren't worth your profit? That the trillions of dollars needed to prop up major corporations is more important than the much smaller amount it would have taken to help the middle class, working class, and poor families just to stay alive? You've made your allegiances clear. You don't give one fuck about Americans. The thing you seem to be missing, though, is who the fuck do you think buys your shit? Who works in your stores? Who styles your hair? Who picks up your trash? Keeps your lights on? There aren't enough graves to keep up with the new demand. They can't dig mass graves fast enough. We've got refrigerated trailers meant to ship food around the country sitting outside hospitals full of diseased bodies of your victims. Mortuaries are so overwhelmed that bodies are left to literally rot. They can't put them in the ground fast enough. We're all fucking dying. And you're the fucker killing us. Not COVID. That's only the means. The triggerman is capitalism and greed. America, I love you, but your death cults are killing us. Hundreds of thousands of people are already dead. Your economy is broken. Fuck the economy. Save the people.